wellness center type of place. And that's what keeps coming up for me, like every time like I do a meditation or things like that. So
to be living your full expression, you're imagining it in the environment being a co-creative space.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and just really having that container for nurturing that type of like growth, that type of new paradigm living. Because, you know, it's not easy how we're all kind of scattered and in different places. And I just, for me, it's like the environment itself is just like almost everything. And I think everything that I studied in design or interior design is like, comes back to like environment and just setting that container for where I'd want to be. So, but yeah, I think other than that, like work-wise and what I'm doing and the people that are weaving into my life, like in and out, like all of you guys, it feels very much in alignment. And so yeah, I feel at peace with that.
Yeah, I think I align with Christina in that. It's very ideal. I like it.
So during the meditation, we did a small meditation, and we were imagining, like, we were paying attention to our inner thoughts, our outer thoughts, our inner feelings, our outer feelings, our inner voice and outer sound, audio, and then inner picture and outer picture. And then we were also imagining level 10 in every area, what a level 10 was emotionally, physically, mentally, financial. We said resources. We're going to start resources instead of financially, but you could also say financially.
Much better word. Absolutely.
Either way, but I originally was when I did this, it was financially, but I think that we're stepping into a place where it's like, you know, the more that we say resources and say that, hey, we're looking for funds, we're looking for resources.
Yeah.
You know, so anyhow.
Well, when you talk about finance, the money is owned by the people who printed it. So it's very finite. It's not infinite. It's not abundant. It's very controlled. When you talk about resources, this planet has so much resources, you can't even access it all. It's just, it's abundant. 100x, you know, of what people need. So
yeah,
it's all there.
Yeah, that just the wording itself like gives a whole different feeling.
Yeah, definitely.
There's no money, but there's a bunch of resources.
That's right.
So for me, it was really weird because mentally before I didn't have a strong image, but this time I not only like felt more of a peace first mentally versus I felt more of a peace at first, and then I started to feel my third eye heating up. So as I led you guys on to different pieces of the meditation, I actually just stayed there I stayed in the mental one for a long time because I really was just enjoying feeling it. And it's hard when you're leading on a call like this. Like if we were to retreat, we could spend a lot more time on it, but it's hard to know if I should be letting you guys experience your experience or moving on to the next. Like for me, sometimes I want to stay on one piece longer, but I just imagine that you guys know that and you just do whatever you do, you know. If you want to feel into your emotions longer, you just do that, right? Spiritually, I felt with my purpose, I was about a 9. I felt with spiritually right now, I felt a little lower than, like lower. Maybe it's because I haven't been connecting into nature. I've been sitting inside a lot. So there's a lot more still to do there. Socially, I imagined it helped me to start to imagine the level 10 socially. It was very communicative, very, very just, you know, part of the group type of thing. And yeah, that was my experience. Oh, yeah. Jonah, did you?
Yum.
Yum. Yes, yum.
Appreciate and give thanks for that guided meditation. You know, it's like helps just go in that collective, co-created space together. And I feel you. And like, it's very different doing these meditations on in this kind of arena, if you will, than a retreat or a physical space that we're all in that space together, you know, where it's easier for our auric fields to come in, you know, and join into the energy. So yeah, bringing awareness to that. You know, when you brought up the physical and checking in into those, it's like right before coming online into this call, you know, it's like dropping it into the daily ritual practice that is, you know, physical, mental, spiritual, and you know, just kind of going through that process to be clear, to feel grounded, be present, to remember, you know, and align, so that I can show up in that way. And I did a set of push-ups to failure, you know, and just like as many as I could until I couldn't push any harder. And starting that practice was a inspiration that came about by another powerful brethren out there, you know, in the charge here. So just remembering the physical notion, I had kind of a drop in with that. I mean, I got into like gym, working out, physical stuff, sports, all of that at a very early age, and then became a master in it, if you will, you know, where I was teaching others and mentoring others in all of the physical realm, you know, and being a personal trainer and running a business in that for 22 years. And so it's kind of fun. Like I was thinking about, you know, my body remembers all of that, you know, so regardless of what current condition that I'm in, I can always remember that, and that can come through, and I can go back to those practices and to what I know works and what I know doesn't work, and bring that into the emotional dimension as well. You know, our way of being is like remembering what works and what doesn't work, you know, and navigating the emotional field, remembering what works and what doesn't work in the mental field, you know. And so it's like so the physical part is like something that I would consider having a strong mastery in. I'm still learning the emotional part, you know, and navigating that. So like bringing in what I've learned in the physical to that, and the way that I've learned helps to ground it a little bit more into some process and strategy. And same with the, you know, the mental part and thinking about the exercises. So it's like push-ups being a physical exercise, and it's like, okay, well, what are the mental exercises, you know, that I can practice? You know, what are the emotional exercises that I can practice to better myself in all of those, and become mastering. And it's like the chapter that I just wrote down, and part of the mental mastery and exercise is writing, and doing that on a day-to-day basis is creative writing. And I had just written down mastering true alchemy. And so it's like the notion of like that alchemical process of going, turning something into, gold into, a resource, basically. Right. And so I love that we are choosing resources. I wanted to share something with y'all as we were speaking of that and abundance, but a haiku that came through yesterday in writing. My ability to be and do what I need now is abundance. So whatever abundance is, literally is the ability to do, and be, to do what we need, to be what we need in the now moment, is a presence of abundance, and the resources are. And so that helps to really ground in, where it's like, okay, in my presence, all right, as long as I'm able to do and be in the now moment, and everything, all the needs are met, then I'm abundant, and so we are. And so it's simple in that form.
In this moment, we're completely abundant. If we let go of the fear and the security and all the stuff and all the made up things about how it's not going to work out, and we just focus in on, hey, right now we're fine. We have everything. We're fine.
Yeah, I feel abundant right now. Definitely.
Did you just say right meow?
Right now.
Look at the abundance. I really love that, Jonah. Going back to the physical, it just made me think that that's kind of where I'm a little stuck right now, actually. I'm actually a lot stronger in the maybe emotional and mental realms, and the physical has been lately an area where my body's just really asking for self-care. So I've had to I need to start going back to some practices and just making sure that I ground myself in my body, because I tend to just always more in the spiritual or emotional realms, for sure. Spend more time there than I do really physically rooted in my body. So yeah, it's a good reminder, and that's where I'm at too. I really do need to focus on the body right now. Yum.
Yeah. Well, I can definitely share some things. One of the what's coming through is a necessity, or as a resource to add to the flow and to create for us, is this practice. As I was sharing with my partner Yaska yesterday, when I was creating this practice, the importance of it being tapping into the physical body, and challenging the physical body a bit in order for the physical body to get stronger, was very much, as part of it. And, so it's and what I found through my spiritual awakening was it was happening through my body. It was through when I would go out on a jog, that's when I was getting the majority of the downloads. It was just full connections. It's just a stream, and it's the breath becomes, conscious, in a way, right? Just like we consciously we'll bring the breath into a form of meditation. It's like an exercise. It's like the body's very conscious of the breath at that moment, and the heart rate starts to increase, and so the body starts to be in this state of awareness, and all of our codes, whether they, like, I'm reading a lot of the gene keys right now. It's part of the exercise. Like, I'm doing like a gene key a day,
cool.
in that. And so, like, taking those in, and it's like, okay, I'm having the experience of what's coming through in those gene keys, like you were sharing, Christina, like, you're on the right path, and getting the confirmation along that I'm doing and being exactly where, I need to be. And, and then seeing the different, like, okay, can this, what improvements can be made by going through those self-reflections, and self-care and checking in. And so I love that we're doing that, with each other, in this too, is to wheel that around and support each other in any way that we can. And we've been flowing in the 144 organizations, and there's a practice of 144 reps, that I do on a daily basis, which, like, one rep, one exercise, basically one repetition, one breath for each organization, so it's like an inspiration or a connection with that frequency, with that resonance, and that Schumann resonance as being the intention. Yeah.
I think Steve's exiting. It's okay. He's with his family. He's just. Yeah, I almost said in the meditation, what's a level 10 self-expression? But then it'd be like, if you're always running around being self-expressive, I don't know. It's it'd be fun. It'd be very fun. But I don't know how possible it would be to be full level 10 self-expression all the time.
Balance.
Yeah. Need some balance. That's the same with the emotions. I'm interested to hear what, to you, Jonah, is a level 10 emotionally. What does that look like? Because obviously we can't just be happy all the time. That's not to me a level 10.
What comes through actually is a 0.
Full balance.
Just be in neutral, emotionally. It is like,
just cut them off. I'm just kidding.
Nah, feel them all. It's right. It's like feeling them all, but not being attached to the thing that. It's like, feel the emotion, but don't be attached to the experience or the thought or the cause of that. Emotion would be in tune to the feeling of it, and let the rest of it dissolve. Let the story dissolve around that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no attachment to, like, the story that become reoccurring because of the evolution of ourselves, the self. Like, okay, my emotions allow me to evolve and to learn, and so if it's reoccurring, I'm still learning, how to be more present to that emotion. And I know, my not self part, and how that can show up is like, uh, frustration and disappointment, you know, as an emotion, you know. So like working through that and recognizing it and feeling it and going, okay, where's that stem from? Okay, now let that go, you know, where it's coming from. And so I guess, so like it's like a 0 point charge, you know, and holding like that level 10. Like I don't want to be at a level 10 emotionally all the time. I think it's like that's running too high, you know. So let's come down to a 5, and that being a balance of mental energy, physical energy, occupational energy, spiritual energy, you know, and emotional energy all together. You know, I like to call them poems.
It is interesting. You know, our physical's definitely connected to our emotions. Like if we go work out afterwards, our emotions automatically are going to be at a higher state, a clearer state. They're clearing things out, sort of, right?
Mm.
And letting go of things is a very big part of it too. It's interesting how even last night I was going through like just being able to let go of stuff really fast. Otherwise it turns into a story.
Mm. Mm.
You just have to let it go. And it's like, and then that's it. Just let it go. So I think maybe level 10 emotionally might just be being in the present all the time. And that way, if, you know, and when other people, but also recognizing when other people are feeling low emotionally, we tend to take that on. And that's when we can, if they are not willing to let go, if they're not willing to let go, and then we follow them down that road of despair and emotional turmoil and, you know, the story comes in right away to back up the not letting go, then we start to take on those yucky emotions.
Yeah, I feel that I'm very empathic and I do take on other people's stuff, but I've also noticed that happens more frequently when I'm not taking care of myself. Like if I'm not really, you know, working on my body and I kind of like kind of forget about self-care, that's when these things happen to me, you know, where I just like take on stuff from other people and then I realize it. I'm like, oh man, like this is happening, you know, and then once I start, you know, working on myself again and getting back into my own rhythm, I noticed I'm a lot stronger and I'm able to have better boundaries emotionally with people. Because I noticed that happened last year a few times where I just like took on stuff that I felt like this is like what's going on, this is not mine. You know, and then I realized I was just not in a place at that point where I was taking good care of myself, you know. And then when I got back to self-care, just focusing on being present, and I definitely had better boundaries there, and I wasn't really doing that. I noticed that when I'm mentoring people.
She cut out?
Look like so, yeah.
Okay. I think she's saying she notices herself taking on other people's energies when she's mentoring them.
Yeah, I love that notion too. You know, it's emotion, energy, and motion. You know, just as a just wordplay, and the when our bodies are in motion, it's like uh, allowing the energy to keep moving, and when our bodies are in stillness, you know, that energy can get stuck, and then maybe that energy moves from the body up into the mind, especially the monkey mind, and start turning around and wheeling around.
You mean
Yeah, you know,
stillness as in like you're frozen stillness, like you're just frozen in fears, that kind of thing? Or what do you mean by stillness?
Yeah, I mean, just just not moving. You know, like our moving our bodies around allows the energy to move. You
yeah.
know, and staying, you know, just kind of like sitting. If that energy's not has nowhere to go, let then we're just gonna be up here. You know, we're gonna be in our mind because the body's not moving, so it just goes up in our head, and so we're just moving that energy around our head. All the stories and all the things can come up there. Some of the most easiest thing, one of the I think the easiest and most powerful ways of getting unstuck or moving past something that we've taken on is to exercise, you know, is to do some exercise, something,
Yeah.
you know, really quick, you know, and reset. It's a really fast and easy way to reset.
It directly affects our emotions. Like we said before, it's like super connected. You were saying, Christina, that you when you're coaching someone, you take on their emotions more.
No, only if I've noticed that when I have, it's because I'm not, like Jonah saying, like fully, you know, in self-care mode, or I'm like, if I've like ignored any aspect of myself, especially physically, then I'm more likely to not have really strong boundaries, like emotionally too, with people, and then I will take on stuff instead of being that container for holding space. You know, like it's
Yeah.
so it'll just
That's-
penetrate me more in that way.
Yeah.
I noticed that even with like doing energy healing, because I do energy healing a lot. So that's when I've noticed like the difference of I'm either like really strong in my body and I'm able to hold that space, or I'm not. And if I'm not, then don't do energy work. Do self-care. You know?
Okay.
I like that you said self energy work, because sorry, not self energy. So holding space, because I kind of imagined it as I'm either giving in to their emotions or I'm keeping mine to myself, or like being separate versus holding space. I think that's like option 3, right? Or out of whatever. I like to think of it like that. That's a good one. Just yeah, holding space. Yeah.
For me, because that just allows me to really be present with whatever that person's going through emotionally, you know, like I mean maybe they're just super angry or something's going on, and it's like I'm able just to be there with them and allow them to express whatever needs to come up without having that, like having me take on that stuff, but just holding that container for them to just like allow it to come up and be released if it needs to, or integrated. So
It's interesting, yeah, because when people are holding the space can be very difficult. For me, it's very difficult, especially when I can see people in their patterns.
Yeah.
And they're just like full on, like there's not even trying. Like if you're not in a setting where they're wanting to be, what'd you call it? Counseling session, or what'd you say?
like mentoring.
Mentoring.
Yeah.
So where they haven't taken you on as a mentor, And so they're just kind of in the pattern, which is what, 90% of the time, right? Most of the time. That's why I think I keep my boundary in my space a lot. I think that's why I'm just like,
yeah,
separate.
Yeah. I totally understand that. Yeah. I think that I probably do the same thing if there are certain people, especially in my family, that are, very much in just like victim mode all the time, and have no interest in seeing their patterns or doing anything about it, but just putting this stuff on you. So in that case, like, I do tend to just put a wall up, and I'll, not be around that person for very long. Like, I'll walk away pretty much. But then I feel if it's somebody that truly just, it needs to come up, and it just depends. It depends on the person. Like, I'll just, hold space when I feel like that person just really needs to release, but yeah, and I have to be careful with that too, because like, I've like definitely realized the difference there if it's just somebody being a vampire.
But wait, so you're saying, so the difference between being a vampire is someone that's knowingly not interested in letting go of stuff or moving forward. They're just wanting a pity party. They're just doing it. They're so it's more about the why then, right? It's their why. It's kind of like you're in business with someone, and their why could be to make money, or their why could be to help the world. Their why could be many things. It could be it could be something personal, like a personal why, like they want to achieve something, or it could be so many things.
Yeah.
Now, like Ronald Bernard, he's just pissed at the world. His why was to destroy humanity.
Yeah.
Right. So there's so many different whys. I mean, yeah, we were, abused as a kid, and we just want to abuse other people. We're pissed at the world.
Yeah.
So that's a why people do everything. It's an underlying context. So yeah, it's interesting because there's in lean startups, there's the that core motivation, that core why. I mean, in lean startups, it's your core problem in life and what your solution to that is, and that bases everything off of that. In this case, I think it's connected to that in a way, but it's a little different because it's your why. It's very similar to your core problem in life, but it's like,
yeah, it is rooted in the core wound.
Core wound.
Yeah.
So so sometimes someone's problem can be that they just want that they're being held, that the system's not built right. It's not efficient, and they want to live a full potential life. They have one life to live, and they want to just make the best of it and do the best they can do. So that's not really related to a core wound, is it?
I feel like yes and no.
What core wound would that be?
I mean, I feel like even if it's like positive emotions, there's always some kind of underlying fear that kind of motivates you to do things in a different manner. I mean, I was doing some work around this because for me, it's like, what is the motivating? I mean, I want to live my full potential. I don't really like money. Like, and then I had to do some work around money and abundance. What is that really like? How do I feel abundant sometimes? Like, I don't. you know, I have these patterns too. And but then when I think about like childhood and my upbringing, I can kind of see these patterns and why I like am the way I am today or feel that way, you know, because in childhood I didn't feel free in a lot of ways, you know, and it's like in adulthood, it's like me wanting to express my life in a certain way is like something that felt very denied as a child, you know, so it's like it does kind of come back to me, it does come back to childhood and like some type of wounding of like your intentions later on of like or your purpose, you know.
Being
It's like it's the shadow and the light, and it's like just bringing it together, and to me it's both is beautiful, you know. It's
I wonder if it's a wound or not, because it's like we're born with all this energy and self-expression, and we get like suppressed.
yeah.
So it's like a suppression of our, it's just a general suppression of like it's a ceiling, like, you know, you can't go
Yeah,
any
our
higher.
creative expression or
A self-expression ceiling.
yeah.
And so like suppression, that's not one of the core wounds though. What are the core wounds? I don't know them that well.
Oh, there's like a whole list of them.
Oh, I thought there was like 4 or 7.
um
I guess I could just look it up.
yeah, I can read some off, but funny because mine was very elusive for a long time. I had a very difficult time like pinpointing like exactly what what it was. But let me see, I could find the list.
It says negative beliefs or core wounds. Core beliefs. Oh my God, there's a lot of writing on
The
this.
core beliefs are coming from the wound.
There's a lot of stuff on this. I like what you said. Yeah. While you're looking for that, what you were saying earlier about writing down stuff, Jonah. I did a dragon dreaming. Have you heard of dragon dreaming? I started to take those classes, and they do that every class. Every time they get together, they talk a little bit, they come up with a subject, and then they all write about it, and then they share.
That's pretty cool.
That's awesome. That's great.
Online. So it's something we can definitely do. I think one of them was what is love as a subject. It's like it was like what the difference between love and accepting, or something like that.
Love and acceptance. Oh.
It's kind of like, you know, toxic sludge. Like you may not love it, but you might accept it.
You know, we did that exact exercise. I don't know, about a week ago, of like, what is love, and then writing on that. Yeah, it was a really powerful, you know, thing. What came in is like almost for me, that wrote down. I went into what does it look like daily? How does it show up? How does love show up daily, or how do I embody that frequency of love on a day-to-day basis? You know, and so starting off with self, you know, is loving self, you know, and we can only love anything outside of ourselves as much as we love our own self, you know. And so I mean, doing that as a collective practice, and you can get so many versions of, you know, what is love, you know. And I found, you know, something that came through at the beginning was love is a feeling, you know. It's right, it's the emotion, the and then looking at all the ways that love appears. How does love appear physically, you know, in our physical senses? How does love show up emotionally? How does love show up and is expressed, the self or radical expression of love, you know, spiritual love? What does mental love look like, you know? And so, but what is it, real quick, if I may share on that? Love is waking up early and being grateful for life every day. Love is self-caring for the mind, body, and soul. Read, exercise, write. Love is meeting needs, healthy food, water, shelter for every human. Love is setting goals and working on them each day with joy for freedom. Love is telling truth and being vulnerable even when it hurts. Love is protecting those that can't protect themselves, a selfless service. Love is limitless, creating ways to break through fear of love itself.
That's awesome.
I love it.
I'm grateful.
Yeah.
Did you find the core wounds?
I did. Should I read them?
Yeah, let's hear 'em.
Example core wounds. All right. These are just some of the main common ones. So the first one is abandonment, physical abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse, sexual abuse, incest, drug or alcohol abuse by a family member, rejection, betrayal, stolen childhood, physical neglect, emotional neglect, mental illness of a loved one, control or overprotectiveness, lack of limits, guilt.
Lack of limits. How's
I
that?
know that kind of sounds.
Okay, I'm gonna think about that one.
Yeah, I need to think about that one too. Guilt, unwanted, childhood illness, birth trauma, and birth defect are, I guess, the most common one.